Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the main screen. 3 years of traveling through space had led to this moment. His crew of 50 humans was about to make history. They were the first humans to meet aliens. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Ben Rogers from his communications station. "It's not like anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to Ben's station. The young officer had been working with alien signals for weeks, ever since they detected the strange transmissions near Alpha Centauri. Ben was good at his job, and Jake trusted him completely. "What does it say?" Jake asked. Ben looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, they're speaking English. Perfect English. They want to meet with us." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on old human cultures and artifacts. Lisa had joined the mission because she believed space held answers about humanity's past. She never expected to find aliens who spoke their language. "That's impossible," Lisa said. "How could they know English?" Jake felt his heart racing. First contact with aliens was supposed to be difficult. They had trained for years on how to communicate with beings who might not even think like humans. But these aliens already spoke. "English? Put them on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen changed from stars to show a being that looked almost human, but with blue skin and large black eyes. The creature wore what looked like a uniform with strange symbols. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said with a warm smile. "I am Ambassador Zexathara of the Velian people. We represent the Galactic Federation. We have been waiting for your species to develop space travel." Jake stepped forward. He had practiced this speech many times, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." Zexathara nodded. "Your species shows great promise. We would like to welcome you into the galactic community. There are many species in our Federation, and we believe humans will make excellent additions." Dr. Carter moved closer to Jake. She whispered, "Captain, something feels wrong about this. How do they know so much about us?" Jake nodded slightly, but kept his attention on the alien ambassador. "We would be honored to learn about your Federation. How many species are part of it?" "Currently, 47 different species call the Federation home," Zexathara explained. "Each brings unique skills and knowledge. Humans appear to be a young species, but your rapid technological development is impressive." "Young species?" Lisa asked before Jake could stop her. Zexathara looked at her with those large black eyes. "Yes, Dr. Carter. Your species achieved space travel very quickly compared to most others. Most species take much longer to develop such technology." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The alien knew her name, and they seemed to know a lot about human development. She had studied ancient human stories her whole life, and something about this situation reminded her of old myths about gods watching humans from the sky. "How long has the Federation existed?" Jake asked. "Approximately 50,000 Earth years," Zexathara replied. "We are still young compared to the ancient civilizations that came before us." "Ancient civilizations?" Lisa couldn't help but ask. The ambassador's expression changed slightly, becoming more serious. "Yes. Long ago, there was a great civilization that ruled much of the galaxy. We call them the predecessors. They left behind amazing technology and structures, but they vanished without explanation. We have spent thousands of years trying to understand their knowledge." Jake noticed Lisa's hands were shaking. She was staring at the alien with an expression he had never seen before. It was like she had just solved a puzzle that had been bothering her for years. "These predecessors," Jake said carefully, "what did they look like?" "We do not know," Zexathera admitted. "They left no images of themselves, only their technology and some written records that we cannot fully understand. But their buildings and machines suggest they were highly advanced beings." Dr. Carter stepped forward again. "Ambassador, could we see some of these predecessor artifacts? As a student of ancient cultures, I would find them very interesting." Zexathara smiled again. "Of course. In fact, we would like to invite your entire crew to visit our capital world, Nexus Prime. There you can see many predecessor sites and meet representatives from all Federation species." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew looked excited but nervous. This was exactly what they had hoped for when they left Earth, but it was happening much faster than expected. "We accept your invitation," Jake said. "When can we arrange this visit?" "Immediately, if you wish. I can provide you with navigation data to reach Nexus Prime. The journey will take several of your days, but our traffic controllers will guide you safely through Federation space." As the transmission ended and the navigation data came through, Jake noticed Dr. Carter was still staring at the screen. She looked like she had seen a ghost. "Lisa, what's wrong?" he asked. She turned to him with worry in her eyes. "Captain, I've been studying human myths and ancient stories my whole life. The way that ambassador described the predecessors, it matches descriptions from old human legends about lost civilizations." Ben looked up from his station. "Dr. Carter, you think humans might have met these predecessors before?" "I don't know," Lisa said slowly, "but I think we need to be very careful. There are too many coincidences here. They speak our language perfectly. They know about our development, and they describe ancient beings that sound like stories from human mythology." Jake nodded. "We'll stay alert, but this is still an amazing opportunity. We're about to join a galactic civilization." As the New Horizon began its journey toward Nexus Prime, none of them realized they were about to discover that humans weren't joining galactic civilization for the first time. They were coming home to an empire their ancestors had built and abandoned long ago. Dr. Carter spent the journey reading every file she had about ancient human cultures, looking for connections to what the ambassador had told them. Each story she read made her more convinced that humanity's first contact with aliens was actually a reunion that neither side understood yet. The truth would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The capital world of Nexus Prime was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. As the New Horizon approached the planet, Jake Morrison and his crew stared in amazement at the massive space stations orbiting the world. Each station was the size of a small moon, and dozens of different types of ships moved between them. "Captain, I'm reading 47 different ship designs," Ben Rogers reported from his station. "Each one appears to be from a different species." Admiral Kate Phillips had joined them for the final approach to Nexus Prime. She was humanity's top diplomat and had traveled from Earth specifically for this historic meeting. Kate was a tough woman who had spent her career dealing with difficult negotiations, but even she seemed overwhelmed by the size of the Federation. "Dr. Carter, are you seeing this?" Kate asked. Lisa Carter was pressed against the main viewing window, watching the alien city grow larger as they descended. The buildings were enormous, with architecture that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. But something about the design patterns looked familiar to her. "Admiral, those building shapes," Lisa said, pointing at the tallest structures. "They remind me of ancient human architecture. The way the corners curve, the proportions. It's similar to buildings from old Earth civilizations. Kate looked where Lisa was pointing. You think there's a connection? I don't know yet, Lisa replied. But I'm starting to notice a lot of similarities between Federation technology and things from human history. Their ship landed at a massive spaceport that stretched for miles in every direction. Hundreds of different alien species moved through the area, loading and unloading cargo, talking in dozens of different languages. But what surprised the humans most was how many of the aliens looked almost human. Different skin colors, different body proportions, but the basic shape was very similar. Ambassador Zexathara met them at the landing pad with a group of other Federation officials. Each represented a different species, but Lisa noticed that they all had similar features to humans. 2 arms, 2 legs, similar facial structures. It was like looking at humans who had evolved on different worlds. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Zexathara said with the same warm smile he had shown on their first meeting. "These are my colleagues who will help introduce you to Federation society." One of the other aliens stepped forward. She had green skin and silver hair, but her face was remarkably human-like. "I am Dr. Vexani, the Federation's chief archaeologist. I understand you have an interest in ancient cultures, Dr. Carter." Lisa shook the alien woman's hand, noting that even their gestures seemed human. "Yes, I study ancient civilizations. I would love to learn about your archaeological discoveries." "Excellent," Dr. Vexani said. "I can show you many predecessor sites. We have been studying their remains for thousands of years, but much about them remains mysterious." As they walked through the spaceport, Kate Phillips asked the question that had been bothering her since their arrival. "Ambassador, you mentioned that the Federation is 50,000 years old. How long have your individual species been spacefaring?" Zexathara exchanged glances with the other aliens before answering. "Most of our species achieved space travel within the last 50,000 years. It is quite remarkable how many species developed advanced technology around the same time period." Ben Rogers, who had been listening carefully, spoke up. "What happened 50,000 years ago? Was there some kind of event that helped species develop?" The aliens looked uncomfortable for a moment. Dr. Vexani answered slowly, "That was approximately when the Great Silence began. The predecessors stopped all communication and activity. Their great empire simply ended. After that, many species began developing advanced technology." Lisa felt her heart racing. The predecessors had an empire? "Oh, yes," Dr. Vexani said, with enthusiasm. "They ruled most of the galaxy. We have found their technology on thousands of worlds, cities, machines, databases. But then, suddenly, all activity stopped. We call it the Great Silence because no one knows what happened to them." As they entered the main Federation building, Lisa noticed more familiar patterns. The doorways were exactly the right size for humans. The stairs had steps that matched human proportions. Even the lighting seemed designed for human eyes. "Dr. Vexani," Lisa said carefully, "these predecessor sites, do you have any examples of their writing?" "Certainly. In fact, we have a small display here in the main building." The alien archaeologist led them to a wall covered with symbols and markings behind protective glass. "These are copies of predecessor writing from various sites. Beautiful, isn't it?" Lisa stared at the symbols and felt her knees go weak. Kate had to grab her arm to keep her steady. "Dr. Carter, what's wrong?" Kate asked. Lisa pointed at the symbols with a shaking hand. Those aren't alien symbols. That's ancient human writing, Sumerian, Egyptian, Sanskrit. I can read parts of it. The Federation officials looked at each other with surprise. Zexathara stepped closer to Lisa. You can read predecessor writing? That's impossible. Our best linguists have worked on these symbols for thousands of years. Ben Rogers moved closer to the display. As a communications expert, he knew several ancient human languages. Dr. Carter is right. That symbol there means home in ancient Sanskrit, and that one is definitely Egyptian. Dr. Vexani looked confused and excited at the same time. This is remarkable. No species has ever been able to translate predecessor text. How do humans know this writing? Lisa looked at Kate, who nodded slightly. They had agreed to be careful about sharing too much information until they understood the situation better. These symbols are similar to some very old human writing systems, Lisa said carefully. It could be a coincidence, but even as she said, Lisa knew it wasn't a coincidence. The evidence was becoming too clear to ignore. The familiar architecture, the human-like appearance of the Federation species, the fact that predecessor writing was actually ancient human languages. Everything pointed to an incredible possibility. Admiral Phillips asked another important question. You said the predecessors ruled most of the galaxy. How advanced were they compared to current Federation technology? Zexathara looked almost embarrassed. Much more advanced than us. We can barely understand their basic machines. Their ships could travel between stars in days instead of weeks. They could change the weather on entire planets. Some of their technology seems almost magical. To us. Lisa and Kate exchanged looks. The humans had been assuming that Federation technology was more advanced than Earth's. But if the predecessors were much more advanced than the Federation, and the predecessors were connected to ancient humans, could we visit one of these predecessor sites? Lisa asked. Dr. Vexani smiled. Of course. There's an excellent site on the mining world of Cathara 7th. We could arrange a research expedition. It would be fascinating to see if humans can understand more of their technology. As the day continued and they met more Federation species, Lisa kept noticing the same patterns. All the species looked somewhat human. All had developed advanced technology around the same time. All lived in buildings and used tools that seemed designed for human-like beings. That night, in their quarters aboard the New Horizon, the human crew gathered to discuss what they had learned. This is bigger than first contact, Kate said quietly. If Dr. Carter is right about those symbols, I know what I saw, Lisa interrupted. That was human writing, ancient human writing from civilizations that existed thousands of years ago on Earth. Ben Rogers had been thinking about the language patterns all day. It's not just the writing. Did anyone else notice that all the Federation languages have similar root structures? They're all built on the same basic foundation. Jake Morrison had been quiet during most of the day, but now he spoke up. Are you saying that humans were here before? That we had contact with these species in the past? Lisa shook her head. I think it's bigger than that, Captain. I think the predecessors weren't aliens at all. I think they were humans. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. If Lisa was right, then humanity wasn't joining. Galactic civilization. They were returning to an empire their own species had built and mysteriously abandoned 50,000 years ago. But that raised an even bigger question. If humans had once ruled the galaxy, what had happened to make them disappear? And why didn't modern humans remember any of it? The mining world of Cathara 7th looked like a dead planet from space. Its brown surface was covered with deep holes where Federation mining teams had been digging for centuries. But according to Dr. Vexani, it held one of the best preserved predecessor sites in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Carter felt nervous as their shuttle descended toward the planet's surface. She had spent the 3-day journey from Nexus Prime studying every piece of predecessor information the Federation had shared with them. Each new detail made her more certain that the predecessors were ancient humans, but she needed proof. There, Dr. Vexani pointed through the shuttle window at a series of structures rising from the planet's surface. The Cathara Complex. We believe it was some kind of research facility. Captain Jake Morrison looked at the buildings and felt his breath catch. The architecture was definitely human in style, but the scale was enormous. The main building was a pyramid that stretched nearly a mile into the sky, with smaller buildings arranged around it in perfect geometric patterns. "How old is this site?" Jake asked. "Our dating method suggests it's at least 60,000 years old," Dr. Vexani replied. "Possibly older. The predecessors built things to last." As their shuttle landed near the main pyramid, Lisa noticed that the landing pad was exactly the right size and shape for human-built spacecraft. The doors they walked through were human-sized. Even the steps leading into the main building matched human proportions perfectly. Ben Rogers was carrying a portable scanning device that could detect and translate different types of writing. As they walked deeper into the pyramid, the device started beeping excitedly. "Captain, I'm picking up massive amounts of text and symbols throughout this building," Ben reported. "The patterns match what we saw on Nexus Prime." Dr. Vexani led them through a series of corridors toward what she called the main chamber. The walls were covered with symbols and pictures that looked familiar to Lisa. She had seen similar artwork in ancient Egyptian tombs and Sumerian temples on Earth. "Dr. Vexani," Lisa said, "have you ever been able to activate any of the predecessor technology here?" The alien archaeologist shook her head. "We can study it, but nothing responds to our touch. It's like the machines are waiting for something specific." They entered an enormous chamber with walls that stretched up into darkness. The center of the room contained a massive crystal structure surrounded by metal panels covered in symbols. The whole thing looked like some kind of computer or database. "This is the most complex predecessor device we've found," Dr. Vexani explained. "We believe it contains information, but we've never been able to access it." Lisa walked closer to the crystal structure. The symbols around its base weren't just similar to ancient human writing. They were ancient human writing. Sumerian, Egyptian, Sanskrit, and several other languages were clearly visible. "Ben, bring your scanner over here," Lisa called. Ben approached with his device, but as he got close to the crystal, something unexpected happened. The device started glowing, and symbols began appearing in the air around the crystal structure. "What's happening?" Dr. Vexani asked with excitement. Ben looked at his scanner in confusion. "I don't understand. The device isn't supposed to do this. It's like something in this room is responding to it." Lisa studied the floating symbols and felt her heart racing. "Ben, these symbols, they're not random. They're asking questions." "Questions?" Jake stepped closer. "What kind of questions?" Lisa read the symbols carefully. "It's asking for identification, name, origin, purpose. It's like some kind of security system." Dr. Vexani was practically bouncing with excitement. "This is incredible. No predecessor technology has ever activated for us. What makes your equipment different?" Ben looked at his scanner more carefully. "Actually, Dr. Vexani, it's not my equipment that's causing this. The activation started when I got close to the crystal. I think it's responding to me personally." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Responding to you? How is that possible? Before Ben could answer, Lisa walked directly up to the crystal and placed her hand on its surface. The moment her skin touched the crystal, the entire chamber filled with light. Symbols and images appeared on every wall, and a low humming sound filled the air. Dr. Vexani stumbled backward in shock. "Dr. Carter, what did you do?" Lisa was staring at the symbols appearing around them. "I can read this, all of it. It's a database, and it's in multiple human languages." She turned to look at the others with wide eyes. "It's responding to human DNA." Jake grabbed his communicator. "This is Morrison to the New Horizon. We need Dr. Foster down here immediately." Dr. Amy Foster was the ship's linguistics expert. She knew more ancient human languages than anyone else on the crew. If Lisa was right about what they had found, they would need Amy's skills to understand it. While they waited for Dr. Foster to arrive, the crystal continued displaying information. Lisa walked around the chamber, reading symbols and translating what she could. "Dr. Vexani, this database contains star maps," Lisa said. "Maps showing the location of thousands of worlds. And look at this." She pointed to a section of symbols near the ceiling. "It's showing Earth at the center of everything." Dr. Vexani looked confused. "Earth? Your home world?" "But that's impossible. Earth is on the edge of Federation space, far from the center of the galaxy." Ben was studying the star maps more carefully. "Dr. Carter, these maps don't show current political boundaries. They show something else. Trade routes, communication networks, administrative divisions." "An empire," Jake said quietly. "These maps show an empire with Earth at its center." When Dr. Foster arrived 20 minutes later, she immediately understood the importance of what they had found. As soon as she touched the crystal, even more information became available. The database seemed to recognize her as another human and unlocked deeper levels of data. "This is incredible," Amy said as she read through streams of text. "This isn't just a database. It's a historical record. The predecessors kept detailed records of their civilization." "What does it say about them?" Jake asked. Amy spent several minutes reading before she answered. "According to this, the predecessors called themselves humans. They came from a world they called Earth, and they built an empire that covered most of the galaxy." Dr. Vexani sat down heavily on a nearby stone block. "That's impossible. Humans are a young species. You've only had space travel for a few years." Lisa turned to the alien archaeologist with sympathy in her eyes. "Dr. Vexani, I think we need to tell you something important. The species you call the predecessors, they were humans, ancient humans from Earth. But how can that be?" "Doctor," Vexani asked, "the Federation species have been spacefaring for thousands of years. If humans built this empire, where did they go?" Amy was still reading through the database when she found something that made her gasp. "Dr. Carter, you need to see this. There's a section here about what they call the children." Lisa hurried over to read what Amy had found. As she read, her eyes grew wide with understanding. "What does it say?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at Dr. Vexani with a mixture of excitement and concern. "It says that the predecessors, the ancient humans, they didn't just rule empty worlds. They found primitive species and helped them develop. They guided their evolution and taught them technology." The implications hit Dr. Vexani like a physical blow. "You're saying that my people, that all Federation species were uplifted by ancient humans," Lisa finished gently. "According to this database, every Federation species was helped by the predecessors. You're not just random species who develop technology at the same time. You were all guided and taught by the same teachers. Ben was monitoring his communication equipment when it started picking up transmissions from orbit. Captain, we're getting messages from Federation ships. It sounds like Dr. Vexani's team reported our discovery. There are several Federation vessels approaching this planet. Jake made a quick decision. Dr. Foster, can you download this database? Amy nodded and began connecting her equipment to the crystal structure. I can get most of it, but it will take a few minutes. As Amy worked to copy the database, Lisa continued reading the information displayed around them. Each new piece of information painted a clearer picture of what had happened. Ancient humans had built a vast empire, found dozens of primitive species, and guided them toward intelligence and technology. But then, for some unknown reason, the humans had disappeared, leaving their children to develop into the Federation. Download complete, Amy announced, just as they heard the sound of aircraft approaching. Jake looked around the chamber one more time. We need to get back to our ship and study this information properly. Dr. Vexani, will you come with us? The alien archaeologist nodded slowly. I need to understand what this means for my people. If what you found is true, it changes everything we thought we knew about our history. As they left the pyramid and headed back to their shuttle, none of them realized that they had just uncovered the first piece of a puzzle that would reveal humanity's greatest secret. The ancient humans hadn't just disappeared. They had made the ultimate sacrifice to protect the galaxy from a threat so terrible that they chose to erase themselves from history rather than fight it directly. But that threat was still out there, waiting in the darkness between. The journey back to the New Horizon felt longer than usual. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in the shuttle's passenger section, staring at the data storage device that contained the downloaded database from Cathera 7th. In her hands, she held information that could change how every species in the galaxy understood their own history. Dr. Vexani had been quiet since leaving the pyramid. The alien archaeologist kept looking at the humans with a mixture of wonder and confusion. Everything she had believed about her people's origins was being challenged by what they had discovered. Dr. Carter, Vexani said finally, if what we found is true, it means my entire species owes its existence to ancient humans. Lisa looked at her new friend with compassion. It doesn't change who you are now. Your people built their own civilization over thousands of years. That's still real and important. Captain Jake Morrison was piloting the shuttle himself, wanting to get back to his ship as quickly as possible. He knew that once Federation authorities learned about their discovery, things would become much more complicated. Captain, Ben Rogers said from the communications station, I'm monitoring Federation traffic. They're sending more ships to Cathera 7th. Dr. Vexani's colleagues are very excited about what happened in the pyramid. Jake nodded grimly. How long until we reach the New Horizon? 20 minutes, sir. Once they were back aboard their ship, Jake immediately called a meeting of his senior staff. Admiral Kate Phillips joined them via communication link from her quarters on Nexus Prime, where she was continuing diplomatic talks with Federation leadership. Dr. Amy Foster had been working on the database during the shuttle flight. She looked tired but excited as she began her report. Captain, what we found on Cathera 7th is beyond anything I expected, Amy began. The database contains detailed records of an ancient human civilization that existed for over 100,000 years. They called themselves the Terra Empire, and Earth was their capital world. Jake leaned forward in his chair. 100,000 years? That's much longer than human recorded history. According to these records, modern humans on Earth are descendants of a small population that was left behind when the main civilization departed, Amy continued. The database suggests that something happened to make the ancient humans leave the galaxy voluntarily. Dr. Carter had been studying a different section of the database. Amy, show them what we found about the Federation species. Amy activated the main screen and displayed a series of genetic charts and historical timelines. This is where it gets really interesting. The database contains complete genetic records for every species currently in the Federation. All of them show signs of artificial enhancement and guided evolution. Admiral Phillips leaned closer to her screen. Are you saying the ancient humans created the Federation species? Not created, Lisa corrected. Enhanced. According to these records, ancient humans found primitive species throughout the galaxy and helped them develop intelligence, technology, and space travel. The process took thousands of years for each species. Ben Rogers had been quietly analyzing the communication protocols in the database. Captain, there's something else. The database contains advanced technological blueprints, faster-than-light travel systems, matter converters, energy manipulation devices. This technology is centuries ahead of anything the Federation currently uses. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Are you telling me that ancient humans had technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization? Amy nodded. The Terra Empire's technology made current Federation science look primitive. They could travel between star systems in hours, instead of days. They could terraform entire planets in decades instead of centuries. They even had something called consciousness transfer technology. Dr. Vexani had been listening to this discussion with growing amazement. Consciousness transfer? What does that mean? According to the database, Amy explained, ancient humans could copy and transfer a person's mind and memories into different bodies, or even into pure energy matrices. It was their most advanced technology. Lisa was studying another section of the database when she found something that made her stop breathing. Everyone, you need to see this. She activated a different display that showed a detailed timeline of the Terra Empire's final years. The information was shocking and terrifying at the same time. The ancient humans didn't just disappear, Lisa said quietly. They were fighting something. The database calls it the Void Devourers, entities from outside normal space that consume conscious thought itself. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Jake was the first to speak. Entities that consume consciousness? What does that mean exactly? Amy translated more of the technical information. According to this, the Void Devourers exist in the spaces between dimensions. They feed on the energy produced by thinking minds. When they enter normal space, they can drain the consciousness from entire planets. The database says the Terra Empire fought them for over 1,000 years, Lisa continued. But the war was destroying the galaxy. Every battle against the Void Devourers resulted in the loss of entire star systems. Ben Rogers was reading the communication logs from that time period. Captain, the ancient humans faced an impossible choice. They could continue fighting and watch the galaxy burn, or they could find another solution. Dr. Vexani looked confused and frightened. What kind of solution? Amy found the answer in the final entries of the database. They chose to remove themselves from the equation. The ancient humans used their consciousness transfer technology to encode their minds into quantum matrices hidden throughout the galaxy. They became guardians who could watch over their children without being detected by the Void Devourers. Jake felt his head spinning. So the ancient humans are still alive? just not in physical form? Some of them, Lisa said. The database suggests that a small population remained physical and was sent to Earth with their memories blocked. They were meant to live normal lives until the galaxy was ready for humanity's return. Admiral Phillips had been quiet during this discussion, but now she spoke up. Dr. Carter, are you suggesting that modern humans are the descendants of these memory-blocked survivors? It's the only explanation that makes sense, Lisa replied. It explains why humans developed space travel so quickly compared to other species. It explains why we can read predecessor writing and activate their technology. We're not meeting aliens for the first time. We're coming home. Ben Rogers was monitoring communication channels when his equipment detected something alarming. Captain, I'm picking up strange energy readings from several points throughout Federation space. The patterns match descriptions of Void Devourer activity from the database. Amy quickly searched through the database for more information about the Void Devourers. What she found was terrifying. The containment systems that the ancient humans built are failing, she announced. According to this data, the quantum barriers that keep the Void Devourers locked away require periodic maintenance by human consciousness. Without that maintenance, the barriers weaken over time. Jake realized the implications immediately. How long do we have? Amy ran calculations based on the database information. If the maintenance schedule in these records is accurate, the barriers should have started failing about 50 years ago. The Void Devourers could break through at any time. Dr. Vexani looked terrified. Is there anything we can do to stop them? Lisa found the answer in a section of the database labeled Emergency Protocols. There's something called the Return Protocol. It can restore human consciousness from the quantum matrices and give them access to ancient technology. But it requires volunteers who are willing to accept the full weight of Terra Empire knowledge and responsibility. What does that mean? Jake asked. Amy translated the technical specifications. It means that volunteers would gain access to 100,000 years of human knowledge and technology. They would become capable of operating Terra Empire devices and rebuilding their civilization. But they would also inherit all the memories and responsibilities of the ancient humans. Ben Rogers was still monitoring the energy readings when his equipment detected something new. Captain, Federation monitoring. Stations are reporting space-time anomalies in 17 different systems. The patterns match Void Devourer breakthrough signatures. Jake looked around the room at his crew. They had come to space looking for adventure and discovery. Instead, they had learned that humanity's greatest enemy was stirring again. And only they could stop it. Admiral Phillips, Jake said, we need to get back to Federation space immediately. If the Void Devourers are breaking through, we need to warn everyone and prepare for what's coming. Kate nodded from her screen. Agreed. But Jake, we also need to make a decision about the return protocol. If that's the only way to stop these entities, someone will have to volunteer. Lisa was still reading through the database when she found one final piece of information that changed everything. Captain, there's something else. The database contains coordinates for a location called the Archive. It's supposed to be the main repository of Terra Empire knowledge and technology. Where is it? Jake asked. Lisa checked the star charts. It's hidden in the Veil Nebula, in a region of... Director Kelthor stood in the command center of the Federation Intelligence Headquarters on Nexus Prime, studying reports that had been coming in for the past week. The tall, gray-skinned Zalaran had spent his entire career investigating threats to Federation security, but the humans presented a puzzle unlike anything he had encountered before. Agent Zilnex, What have you learned about human technological capabilities? Kelthor asked his top field operative. Zilnex was a shapeshifter from the Morphic species, capable of disguising herself as almost any other intelligent being. She had been observing the human diplomatic mission since their arrival on Nexus Prime. Director, the humans are hiding something significant, Zilnex reported. They claim to be a young species with limited technology, but their equipment is far more advanced than they admit. Their scanning devices can decode predecessor technology that our best scientists cannot understand. Kelthor turned to study the holographic display showing the human ship's recent movements. They visited the Cathara 7 site and somehow activated predecessor technology that has been dormant for thousands of years. Then they immediately left Federation space without explanation. Sir, there's more, Zilnex continued. I managed to place monitoring devices on their ship before they departed. The humans downloaded massive amounts of data from the Cathara site. According to what I overheard, they claimed to be able to read predecessor writing. The director felt his concern growing. No species has ever been able to translate predecessor text. Our linguists have worked on it for millennia without success. Agent Zilnex activated another display showing intelligence reports from across Federation space. Director, since the human arrival, we've detected unusual energy readings from 17 different predecessor sites. Something about their presence is activating dormant technology. Meanwhile, aboard the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was dealing with his own concerns about Federation surveillance. Lieutenant Ben Rogers had detected the monitoring devices that Agent Zilnex had planted, and the crew was working to mislead their watchers while they traveled toward the Veil Nebula. Captain, I've been feeding false data to the Federation monitoring devices, Ben reported. As far as they know, we're conducting routine scientific surveys of empty space. Dr. Lisa Carter was spending most of her time studying the database they had recovered from Cathara the 7th. Each new section revealed more disturbing information about humanity's past and the current threat facing the galaxy. Jake, I found something important, Lisa called from her research station. The database contains detailed records about Federation species development. The ancient humans didn't just help primitive species evolve, they carefully designed the genetic enhancements to serve specific purposes. Jake walked over to see what Lisa had discovered. The display showed genetic charts and developmental timelines for all 47 Federation species. What kind of purposes? Jake asked. Lisa pointed to different sections of the genetic data. Each species was given particular strengths. The Velians were enhanced for diplomacy and communication. The Morphics were designed for infiltration and intelligence gathering. The Zendarans were optimized for engineering and construction. It's like the ancient humans were building a complete civilization with each species filling a specific role. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her own research station. That explains why Federation species work together so well. They were literally designed to complement each other. Ben Rogers had been monitoring Federation communication channels when he intercepted something alarming. Captain, Federation intelligence is mobilizing ships to search for us. Director Kelthor has issued orders to locate and detain our vessel for questioning. Jake made a quick decision. How long until we reach the Veil Nebula? 18 hours at current speed, Ben replied. Can we outrun Federation pursuit ships? Ben checked his sensor readings. Maybe, but it will be close. Federation ships are fast, and they know this region of space better than we do. Dr. Carter was still studying the genetic enhancement data when she found something that explained their current situation. Jake, look at this. The database shows that all Federation species have psychological conditioning built into their genetic structure. They're programmed to defer to authority and avoid questioning their origins. Programmed how? Jake asked. Amy translated the technical specifications. The ancient humans included mental blocks that prevent Federation species from seriously investigating predecessor technology. They can study it and preserve it, but they're not capable of understanding it deeply enough to use it. Lisa realized the implications. That's why Dr. Vexani and her colleagues never questioned why predecessor technology only responds to humans. Their own genetics prevent them from making that connection. Ben Rogers was tracking the Federation pursuit ships when he detected something else on his scanners. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups in several star systems behind us. The patterns match what the database described for Void Devourer breakthrough events. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many systems? 3 so far, but the readings are spreading. Captain, I think the Void Devourers are starting to break through their containment barriers. Dr. Foster was analyzing the energy signatures when she found confirmation of their worst fears. Jake, these readings match exactly what the database predicted would happen when the quantum barriers failed. The Void Devourers are entering normal space. Lisa was reading through emergency protocols in the database when she found critical information. The database says that once Void Devourers establish a foothold in normal space, they can spread rapidly. Each system they consume makes them stronger and able to break through more barriers. Jake grabbed his communicator. Admiral Phillips, come in. We have an emergency situation. Admiral Kate Phillips responded from Nexus Prime, where she was still conducting diplomatic meetings. Jake, what's your status? Kate, the entities we read about in the database are breaking through. We're detecting Void Devourer activity in multiple systems. You need to evacuate Federation space immediately. There was a long pause before Kate responded. Jake, I'm getting reports of communication blackouts in several outer systems. Federation Command is attributing them to equipment failures, but it's not equipment failure, Jake interrupted. Kate, you need to convince Federation leadership to evacuate populated systems immediately. According to the database, the Void Devourers consume consciousness. When they attack a system, every thinking being in that area dies. Ben Rogers was tracking both the Federation pursuit fleet and the spreading Void Devourer activity when he made an alarming discovery. Captain, the Federation ships chasing us are heading directly toward one of the affected systems. If they continue on their current course, they'll encounter the Void Devourers in approximately 6 hours. Jake realized they faced an impossible choice. They could continue toward the archive and hope to find a solution to the Void Devourer threat, or they could try to warn the Federation ships that were pursuing them. Lisa was reading more of the database when she found information that helped make the decision. Jake, according to the emergency protocols, the only way to stop a Void Devourer incursion is to activate ancient human containment technology, but that technology can only be operated by humans who have access to Terra Empire knowledge. The return protocol, Amy said. We need to reach the archive and implement the return protocol before the Void Devourers spread too far. Jake made his decision. Ben, send a general broadcast on all Federation frequencies. Warn them about the Void Devourers and tell them to evacuate the affected systems, then get us to the Veil Nebula as fast as possible. Ben began transmitting the warning, but Jake knew that Federation conditioning would make it difficult for them to take the threat seriously. The genetic programming that prevented them from understanding predecessor technology would also make them skeptical of human warnings about ancient threats. Director Kelthor received the human warning at the same time his pursuit fleet reported. Strange energy readings in their path. The director had to make a choice. Continue pursuing the humans or investigate the energy anomalies they had warned about. Agent Zilnex, What's your assessment of the human warning? Kelthor asked. The shapeshifter studied the data they had intercepted from human communications. Director, the humans' equipment detected these energy signatures before our own sensors. Their warning appears to be genuine. Kelthor made a decision that would save thousands of lives. Redirect the pursuit fleet to investigate the energy anomalies. If the humans are right about this threat, we need to know what we're dealing with. As the New Horizon approached the Veil Nebula, Lisa discovered more information about the archive they were seeking. The hidden facility was more than just a library. It was the control center for the quantum barrier network that contained the Void Devourers. Jake, the archive isn't just where ancient human knowledge is stored, Lisa announced. It's the command center for the entire containment system. If we can reach it and implement the return protocol, we might be able to repair the failing barriers, Shirley. Rogers was monitoring space around the Veil Nebula when his scanners detected something unexpected. Captain, I'm reading The archive was unlike anything Captain Jake Morrison had ever imagined. As the New Horizon approached the massive structure hidden in the Veil Nebula, Jake realized he was looking at something that challenged his understanding of what was possible. The facility was built into what appeared to be an artificial moon, but as they got closer, Jake could see that the entire structure was made of some kind of crystalline material that seemed to shift and change color in the nebula's strange light. The surface was covered with geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. Ben, are you getting any response from the structure? Jake asked. Lieutenant Ben Rogers was monitoring all communication frequencies, but his equipment was showing readings he had never seen before. Captain, I'm detecting signals, but they're not using any known communication protocols. It's like the structure is trying to talk to us, but in a language our equipment doesn't understand. Dr. Lisa Carter was studying the scanner readings when she noticed something remarkable. Jake, look at this. The structure is generating some kind of gravitational field that shouldn't be possible. It's creating stable space in the middle of the nebula. Dr. Amy Foster was analyzing the energy signatures when the archive suddenly responded to their presence. Lights began appearing across its surface in patterns that seemed to pulse with intelligence. Captain, Amy said with excitement in her voice, those light patterns, they're spelling out words in ancient human languages. The structure is trying to communicate with us. Jake made a decision. Take us closer. If this is really built by ancient humans, maybe it will recognize us. As the New Horizon moved toward the archive, something incredible happened. A section of the structure's surface simply disappeared, revealing a docking bay that was exactly the right size for their ship. The bay was clearly designed for human-built spacecraft. Well, Jake said with amazement, I guess we're expected. Dr. Vexani had been watching the approach with growing wonder. The alien archaeologist had spent her life studying predecessor technology, but this was beyond anything she had imagined possible. Dr. Carter, Vexani said quietly, your ancestors built this. How did they create something so advanced? Lisa was reading data from the archive's initial communications. According to what I'm seeing here, this facility was built using technologies that the ancient humans developed over thousands of years. Matter manipulation, dimensional engineering, consciousness integration. They weren't just advanced. They were approaching the limits of what physical beings could accomplish. As their ship docked inside the archive, the bay filled with breathable atmosphere and artificial gravity adjusted to Earth normal levels. Everything about the facility was designed for human comfort and use. Jake led a small team consisting of Lisa, Amy, Ben, and Dr. Vexani into the archive proper. The corridors were vast and filled with a soft light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Every surface was covered with symbols and patterns that Amy immediately recognized as advanced human mathematics and scientific notation. "This way," Lisa said, following signs that were written in multiple ancient human languages. "The main chamber should be just ahead." They entered a room so large that its ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing star maps, scientific data, and what appeared to be real-time information about conditions throughout the galaxy. In the center of the room stood a pillar of the same crystalline material they had seen on the archive's exterior. As they approached the pillar, it began to glow, and a voice spoke in perfect English. "Welcome home, children of Earth. I am Keeper Unit 7, Guardian of the Archive, and Protector of Terra Empire knowledge. You have been expected for 51,743 years." Jake stepped forward, trying to hide his amazement at speaking with an artificial intelligence that was older than human civilization. "Keeper Unit 7, we're here because we discovered information about the Void Devourers. Are they breaking through their containment barriers?" The AI's response was immediate and concerning. "Confirmed. Quantum barrier degradation has reached critical levels. Void Devourer incursions detected in 37 sectors and expanding. Without immediate intervention, total barrier collapse will occur within 72 standard hours." Dr. Foster asked the question they all dreaded hearing answered. What happens if the barriers collapse completely? Keeper Unit 7 displayed holographic images that showed the galaxy from 50,000 years ago. Previous Void Devourer incursion resulted in the consumption of consciousness from over 4,000 star systems before containment could be re-established. Total galactic consciousness extinction was avoided only through the implementation of the final protocol. Lisa felt her heart racing. The final protocol? What was that? The AI's display changed to show images of ancient humans working with incredible technology. The final protocol required the voluntary transformation of Terra Empire consciousness into quantum matrices capable of maintaining containment barriers while remaining undetectable to Void Devourer senses. Physical human civilization was abandoned. To preserve galactic consciousness, Jake realized they were looking at the greatest sacrifice in galactic history. The ancient humans gave up their physical existence to save everyone else. "Confirmed," Keeper Unit 7 replied. However, the final protocol included provisions for restoration should the barriers require repair. A small population of Terra Empire citizens was relocated to Earth with memory blocks to preserve genetic and cultural continuity. You are their descendants. Dr. Vexani had been listening to this conversation with growing understanding. "Keeper Unit 7? What about the Federation? Species? What happened to the people my ancestors were before the predecessors helped them?" The AI turned its attention to the alien archaeologist. Federation species were uplifted from primitive states and genetically optimized to maintain galactic civilization during human absence. Each species was designed with specific capabilities required for long-term stability and growth. Amy was studying the holographic displays when she found information about the current crisis. "Keeper Unit 7, can the barriers be repaired?" Affirmative. The return protocol can restore Terra Empire consciousness from quantum matrices and provide access to necessary technology. However, The process requires volunteers who accept full integration with ancient human knowledge and memories. Jake understood the implications. You're talking about giving modern humans the memories and knowledge of people who lived 50,000 years ago. What would that do to their original personalities? Keeper Unit 7's response was sobering. Integration preserves original consciousness while adding Terra Empire knowledge and capabilities. However, the psychological impact of acquiring 50,000 years of memories and the weight of galactic responsibility has historically been significant. Ben Rogers had been monitoring his communication equipment when he detected alarming signals. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout Federation space. The Void Devourer incursions are accelerating." Lisa was reading through the return protocol specifications when she found the requirements. "Jake, the protocol can restore up to 50 human consciousnesses initially, but someone has to volunteer to go first and show that the process is safe." Amy was studying the technical details when she found more concerning information. The volunteers would gain access to technologies that could reshape the galaxy: matter conversion, consciousness transfer, dimensional manipulation. They would become more powerful than any current civilization. Dr. Vexani looked worried. "What guarantee do we have that humans with such power wouldn't simply take over the galaxy again?" Keeper Unit 7 answered her concern. Terra Empire records show consistent dedication to protecting and nurturing younger species. The return protocol includes psychological conditioning to reinforce these values. Restored humans will retain the ancient commitment to serving as guardians rather than rulers. Jake was considering the decision when Ben's equipment detected new signals. "Captain, Federation ships are approaching the nebula. Director Kelthor's fleet has found us." Lisa checked the archive's defenses. "Keeper Unit 7, what happens if Federation forces try to interfere with the return protocol?" "This facility possesses defensive capabilities sufficient to protect against any known Federation technology. However, conflict with Federation forces would delay implementation of the return protocol beyond the critical timeline for barrier repair." Jake realized they were running out of time. The Void Devourers were breaking through in increasing numbers. Federation forces were approaching, and the only solution required volunteers to undergo a transformation that would fundamentally change who they were. Amy was reading more of the protocol specifications when she found something important. "Jake, the return protocol doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can start with a small number of volunteers to handle the immediate crisis, then gradually restore more ancient consciousness as needed." Lisa looked at her friends and colleagues. "Someone has to volunteer. The galaxy is counting on us to make this work." Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He had brought... The battle for the galaxy began in the most unlikely way, with Dr. Lisa Carter, now carrying 50,000 years of Terra Empire memories, trying to explain to Director Kelthor why his entire species needed to trust a group of humans they had just met. "Director, I know this is difficult to accept," Lisa said as she operated controls that looked like crystalline art but functioned as the most advanced computers ever built. "But your people aren't just random aliens who happen to develop space travel. You're our children. All Federation species are." Kelthor watched the holographic displays showing Void Devourer attacks spreading across Federation space. In the past hour, 3 more star systems had gone silent. "Dr. Carter, even if what you're saying is true, how do we know the ancient human solutions will work against these entities?" Dr. Amy Foster, now also integrated with Terra Empire knowledge, looked up from her workstation. "Because we've fought them before. 50,000 years ago, we held them off for over 1,000 years, before implementing the final protocol. Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating with Ben Rogers to establish communication with Federation forces throughout the galaxy. Director, we can debate the historical details later. Right now, we need to focus on stopping these things before they consume every thinking being in the galaxy. The Archive's main chamber had become a command center for the most desperate military operation in galactic history. Federation ships were arriving continuously as word spread about the ancient human facility and the technology that might save them. Agent Zilnex was monitoring Void Devourer activity when she made a disturbing discovery. Director, the entities appear to be learning from their attacks. They're adapting their tactics faster than our defenses can respond. Lisa felt a chill of recognition from her inherited memories. That's what they did before. The Void Devourers are intelligent. They study their enemies and develop countermeasures. That's why the Terra Empire ultimately had to withdraw from physical reality. Admiral Kate Phillips arrived at the Archive with a fleet of Federation ships and a desperate report from the outer systems. Jake, we've lost contact with 17 star systems now. The entities are moving toward the core Federation worlds. Jake looked at the tactical displays with growing concern. How long do we have before they reach Nexus Prime? Ben Rogers was tracking the spreading attacks when he found the answer they all dreaded. Captain, at current expansion rates, the Void Devourers will reach the capital system in 4 hours. Lisa and Amy had been working with Keeper Unit 7 to identify the quantum barrier generators that needed immediate repair. The ancient AI had calculated the minimum repairs necessary to contain the current incursion. We need to repair 17 barrier generators to re-establish containment, Lisa announced. But they're scattered across 12 different star systems, and some of them are already in Void Devourer-controlled space. Admiral Phillips studied the locations. Lisa, we don't have enough ships to reach all those positions in time. Amy was reading through Terra Empire tactical records when she found a possible solution. The Archive has emergency systems that can temporarily boost the remaining barriers. It won't stop the Void Devourers, but it might slow their advance enough for us to complete the repairs. Keeper Unit 7 activated the emergency systems, and the Archive began channeling enormous amounts of energy to barrier generators throughout the galaxy. The immediate result was visible on their tactical displays as the Void Devourer advance slowed. Temporary containment established, the AI reported. However, current power output is unsustainable. Emergency boost can be maintained for approximately 6 hours before Archive systems require shutdown for cooling. Jake realized they had a narrow window to save the galaxy. All right, people. We have 6 hours to repair 17 barrier generators. Lisa, Amy, can the return protocol be used on more volunteers? Lisa checked the integration systems. Yes, but each integration takes 30 minutes. We can restore maybe 10 more people in the time we have. Director, the holographic displays in the Archive showed scenes of horror that made Captain Jake Morrison feel sick to his stomach. Federation worlds were going dark one after another as the Void Devourers spread through normal space. Each affected system showed the same pattern, normal communication suddenly stopping, followed by complete silence. Keeper Unit 7, how many people have we lost so far? Jake asked, dreading the answer. The AI's response was delivered in the same calm tone it used for all information, but the numbers were devastating. Current consciousness loss estimates indicate approximately 47 million sentient beings across 12 star systems. Expansion rate is accelerating as Void Devourers establish stronger footholds in normal space. Dr. Lisa Carter was reading through the return protocol procedures when she made her decision. "I'll volunteer for the first integration." Jake turned to her with concern. "Lisa, you don't know what this will do to you. Keeper Unit 7 said the psychological impact could be significant." Lisa looked at the displays showing Federation worlds under attack. "Jake, millions of people are dying. If there's a chance this protocol can save them, I have to try." Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward as well. "I'll volunteer too. We need linguists and archaeologists to understand the ancient technology properly." Ben Rogers looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm intercepting Federation distress calls from the outer systems. They're begging for help, but Federation command doesn't understand what they're fighting." Jake felt the weight of command bearing down on him. His crew was volunteering for a procedure that could fundamentally change who they were, but the alternative was watching an entire galactic civilization be consumed by entities from outside reality. "Keeper Unit 7, what exactly happens during the integration process?" Jake asked. The AI activated a detailed holographic display. "The volunteer's consciousness is temporarily suspended while Terra Empire memory matrices are integrated into their neural structure. Original personality and memories remain intact. But the volunteer gains access to 50,000 years of human knowledge, technology, and experience." Dr. Vexani had been watching this conversation with growing concern. As the only non-human present, she understood better than anyone what was at stake for the Federation species. "Dr. Carter," Vexani said quietly, "if you go through with this, will you still be human in the way we understand it?" Lisa considered the question carefully. "I don't know. But if I don't do this, your people and millions of others will die. That's not a choice at all." Jake was about to give his approval when Ben's communication equipment detected incoming signals. "Captain, Federation ships are requesting permission to dock. Director Kelthor wants to speak with us immediately." Jake made a quick decision. "Keeper Unit 7. Can you allow the Federation ships to dock without compromising the archive's security?" "Affirmative. This facility's defensive systems can contain any threats while allowing diplomatic contact." Minutes later, Director Kelthor entered the archive's main chamber, accompanied by Agent Zilnex and a small security team. The tall Zalaran looked around the vast room with undisguised amazement. "Captain Morrison," Kelthor said. "Federation. Command has lost contact with 12 star systems in the past 6 hours. Our investigation suggests these attacks match the ancient threat you warned us about." Jake nodded grimly. "Director, the Void Devourers are breaking through their containment barriers. According to this facility's records, they'll continue spreading until they consume every thinking being in the galaxy." Agent Zilnex was studying the archive's technology with professional interest. "Captain, this facility appears to be of predecessor construction. How were you able to locate and access it?" "Amy," Foster answered before Jake could respond. "Because the predecessors were ancient humans. This facility was built by our ancestors 50,000 years ago." Director Kelthor stared at Amy in disbelief. "That's impossible. Humans are a young species with limited technology. Keeper Unit 7 addressed the Federation officials directly. Director Kelthor of the Zalaran Intelligence Service, your species was uplifted from primitive hunter-gatherers by Terra Empire citizens approximately 47,000 years ago. Your genetic structure contains artificial enhancements designed to optimize intelligence, social cooperation, and technological aptitude. The revelation hit Kelthor like a physical blow. You're saying my entire species was created by ancient humans? Enhanced, not created, Lisa corrected gently. Your people had their own culture and society before the Terra Empire helped them develop advanced technology and space travel. Agent Zilnex was reading data from her scanner when she made a disturbing discovery. Director, I'm detecting massive Void Devourer activity throughout Federation space. At current expansion rates, they'll reach Nexus Prime within 18 hours. Jake realized they were out of time for lengthy explanations. Director Kelthor, we need to implement something called the Return Protocol. It's the only way to stop the Void Devourers, but we need volunteers from my crew to undergo a dangerous procedure. Kelthor looked at the holographic displays showing the spread of Void Devourer attacks. What kind of procedure? Keeper Unit 7 explained the return protocol to the Federation officials. As the AI described how human volunteers would gain access to ancient technology and memories, Kelthor's expression grew increasingly concerned. Captain Morrison, you're talking about giving modern humans godlike power over galactic civilization. What guarantee do we have that they won't simply conquer the galaxy as their ancestors did? Lisa had been reading more of the Terra Empire records during this conversation. Director, the ancient humans didn't conquer the galaxy. They protected it. Every species they uplifted was given the tools to build their own civilization and make their own choices. Amy added more historical context. The Terra Empire lasted for over 100,000 years without a single recorded instance of genocide, slavery, or forced subjugation of other species. Their entire culture was built around the idea of nurturing younger civilizations. Ben. Rogers interrupted with urgent news. Captain, I'm receiving distress calls from Admiral Phillips on Nexus Prime. Void Devourer signatures have been detected in the capital system. Jake made his final decision. Keeper Unit 7. Begin the return protocol integration for volunteers Dr. Carter and Dr. Foster. Integration process requires approximately 30 minutes per volunteer. The AI responded. During this time, the volunteer's consciousness will be offline. Lisa stepped toward the crystalline pillar in the center of the room. Do it. The archive filled with a soft musical humming as ancient machinery activated for the first time in 50 millennia. Lisa placed her hands on the pillar and felt a strange tingling sensation as the integration process began. For a moment, she remained herself, Dr. Lisa Carter, archaeologist and explorer. Then the memories began flowing into her mind like a river of liquid starlight. She remembered being Lysara Kael'than, master terraformer who had shaped 1,000 worlds to support life. She remembered the joy of making first contact with primitive Zelleran tribes and the careful work of guiding their development over centuries. She remembered the horror of the first Void Devourer attacks and the desperate research to find a way to stop them. Most of all, she remembered the agonizing decision to implement the final protocol, to give up physical existence to protect the children they had nurtured throughout the galaxy. When Lisa opened her eyes 30 minutes later, she was still herself, but she was also something more. The knowledge of Terra Empire civilization flowed through her mind like a symphony of science and technology that current Federation capabilities could barely comprehend. Lisa? Jake asked cautiously. Are you okay? She looked at him with eyes that held 50,000 years of human experience. I'm still me, Jake. But I also remember everything. The Terra Empire, the uplift programs, the war with the Void Devourers, and how to stop them. Lisa turned to the archive's control systems and began operating technology that had been waiting for human hands for millennia. Keeper Unit 7, show me the current status of the quantum barrier network. The holographic displays changed to show a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light representing barrier generators. Many of them were flashing red, indicating system failures. I can fix this, Lisa said with confidence that came from ancient memories. But I'll need help. Amy, are you ready? Dr. Foster stepped forward to undergo her own integration. As the process began, Ben Rogers reported more disturbing news. Captain, Void Devourer activity is accelerating. They've reached the Inner Federation systems. We have maybe 6 hours before they attack Nexus Prime itself. Director Kelthor watched the integration process with a mixture of fear and hope. His entire understanding of galactic history had been shattered in the span of an hour, but if these ancient human technologies could save his people, he was willing to accept the truth. Captain Morrison, Kelthor said, what do you need from Federation forces to make this work? Jake looked at the displays showing the spreading chaos. Evacuation of populated systems in the Void Devourer path and protection for the barrier generator sites will need to repair. When Amy's integration was complete, she joined Lisa at the archives.